For thousands of people across Britain, someone is missing from their lives.
I'm his son. I need to be able to say the word Dad to him.
She's my mother. I have carried the guilt, thinking that I hope I haven't ruined her life.
3 children kept together and 1 taken away. So where is he?
Finding someone when the trail's gone cold can feel like an impossible task. But that's where we step in.
We found her.
Hooray! Yes.
This is my dream come true.
Offering a last chance to people desperate for help.
That's the first time in 73 years I've seen my mum.
With searches taking us to surprising places, we've unearthed hidden secrets, solving family mysteries, and finding people that nobody else could trace.
Buongiorno.
Buongiorno, Silvana.
A mi esposo, que él es el papá de Christina's father.
Christina's father. This is wonderful.
Although the answers aren't always what people expect,
Oh my word!
we resolve questions that have haunted entire lives.
I only know that she's not dead because of you.
This week, an extraordinary double search within one family. It begins with a sister looking for her half-brother Keith to tell him the truth about their father.
Keith should know that his dad actually wanted him and didn't just abandon him.
And ends with Keith searching for answers about the birth mother who gave him up for adoption.
I need to know what happened to her. That's the bit that's become incredibly important all of a sudden.
For the first time on Long Lost Family, we endeavour to bring both sides of a family together.
Our search begins with a woman desperate to find her brother, to tell him about the father he never knew.
If my brothers got his birth certificate, there'd be a blank space on there for his father, and he would just think he wasn't interested in him. I have to find him. I have to tell him he was wanted, and he still is now.
Hello, my lovely boys. Mwah, mwah.
Maureen Slews has 4 children and 5 grandchildren and lives near Cheltenham where she grew up.
Right, you're going to have that. Oh, and what would you like with it? A sausage on there? They're everything, really, my family. The importance of family has been passed down the line from my mum and dad. When I was growing up, there was me, my mum and dad, and my brother Julian, and also many foster children. My mum was a very loving mum, and my dad, I always knew that he really loved me. Family was first with my dad.
But when Maureen was 14, her mum Beatrice made a surprise revelation about her dad.
It was in the summer, and I was in the kitchen with my mum, and she was talking to my auntie, and she sort of said something, and I said, "Sorry, Mum, what was that?" And she said, "Oh, it's your dad's other son." I said, What do you mean, another son?" She said, "He's got another son, older than you. Your father would have loved to have known it."
Her mum revealed that soon after she'd met Maureen's dad, he'd received a letter from Cardiff telling him he had a baby from a previous relationship and asking for maintenance.
My mum said Dad was very keen to see his son, but the baby's mum said no. And my dad said, "Look, I need a photograph of this boy, he's my son." And then that's when she said, "You can't, because he's been adopted."
Hearing this story, Maureen was desperate to find out more about her brother, but she never felt able to ask her dad about him.
There were times when my dad and I were alone and we'd just be chatting about things. I could almost feel he was going to tell me, but he didn't. I think he would have thought that I would be disappointed in him, ashamed.
Despite their dad's silence, Maureen and her younger brother Julian couldn't stop thinking about his other son.
We wondered where he was, what his life was like, if he'd looked like our dad.
It was in 2015, after her parents had passed away, that Maureen felt able to travel to Cardiff and search for her brother. The only information she had from her mum was that he'd been born here around 1949 and his mother's name was Betty Thomas.
I just thought that's so little to go on. If I find anything, it would be an absolute miracle.
Maureen began searching the archives for a birth record of her brother.
This really sweet girl asked what she could do. And she said, oh yes, we've got 2 baby boys born in that period. And I could have fallen through the floor. I thought, oh, this is too good to be true.
Further investigation ruled out one of the birth records, leaving only one that had to be Maureen's brother.
Getting that birth certificate was wonderful. I couldn't believe it was real. To actually see his name in black and white on paper, Keith Thomas, my brother, on August the 16th, 1949. He's there. He's real. But there was a line through where it said father's name and surname. There was nothing there. I thought if Keith's seen this, he would just think his father didn't care. And that made it even more important to find him, to tell him our dad really wanted to be part of his life.
The birth certificate revealed that Keith had been born in a Salvation Army home for unmarried mothers.
So I rang and they told me that because he'd been adopted, the records were actually closed to me. I thought, I'm this close. It was like I was walking up to a door and somebody had slapped it shut, just as I was going to go through it.
With the support of her brother Julian, who doesn't want to appear on camera, Maureen has remained determined to find Keith.
I just couldn't give up looking for my brother. One selfish reason was for me and for Julian, because we've got a brother that we don't know. But also for my dad. Keith should know. My dad was a good dad to me and he would have been a good dad to him as well. I just can't let it go. I just can't let him go.
Maureen has been desperate to find her brother for more than 40 years. But when she found out he'd been adopted, she reached a dead end. So that's where we could help.
To go any further, we needed to access Keith's adoption records to see if his name had been changed. We turned to a specialist social worker who's legally allowed to see this information.
They discovered that, unusually, Keith's parents had kept his full name but added their surname. He was now called Keith Thomas Joseph.
So we began trawling electoral rolls, but our searches drew a blank. There was no trace of a Keith Joseph of the right age living in the UK. We needed a new tack.
We began searching for Keith's adoptive parents, but discovered that sadly, they'd both passed away. But his adoptive mother's death certificate had a crucial piece of information. Her death had been registered by her son, Barry Ernest Joseph, Keith's adoptive brother. We traced Barry and he put us in touch with Keith, who was living more than 10,000 miles away in Australia.
We contacted Keith and he agreed to meet me in his hometown of Balnarring, not far from Melbourne. I'm on my way to tell him about his younger brother and sister on the other side of the world.
Maureen has been searching for years to try and find her big brother so she can tell him that their father was a good man and didn't willingly turn his back on him. What will that news mean to Keith?
I'm catching up with him at an Aussie Rules football match where Keith is a keen supporter.
Keith,
Nicky, how are you?
Very good. Nice to meet you.
You too. Welcome to Australia.
I really love this. It's great.
It's good fun.
Yeah.
It's my granddaughter's playing, my eldest grandchild. She's playing today.
It's fantastic.
Yes.
Keith moved here over 40 years ago from the Brecon Beacons in Wales. Now retired, he worked here for 30 years as a mental health nurse. He has 4 grown-up children and lives with his partner, Heather.
How did you actually find out that you were adopted?
I found out when I was 8 in a schoolyard tussle with another boy in school, and he called me a bastard. And I said, well, so are you. And he said, well, no, you're a real one. I had a really fabulous, loving family, so it was never an issue within my family. I felt within me it was an issue within the community. That my local community knew, and I would always be seen as a bit second-rate, I suppose.
So, by coming to Australia, were you trying to escape?
Yes, yeah. Coming somewhere where nobody knew my background, therefore I couldn't be judged on that, and I could just forget about it.
So how was it when you found out you were being looked for?
It was quite a shock. Not something I'd expected ever.
Ever?
No.
Why?
Because of that little bit that was inside, hidden within me about not being wanted, being rejected.
Well, now you know that you were wanted so much and sought by Maureen. I've got photographs to show you. There's your sister.
Wow. It's an awful lot to take in. Awful lot.
And here are your brother and sister together.
Gee. When did they find out?
Well, Maureen was 14 years old, and her mother mentioned her father's other child. So ever since then, she's been on a quest to find you.
All that time.
Can I tell you about your birth father?
Please.
He had a very brief relationship with your birth mother, and he got this letter saying that she had had a baby, and it was a bolt out of the blue. Maureen says that he wanted to see you, but he wasn't allowed to see you. And the next thing he heard is that you've been put up for adoption. And Maureen really needs you to know that he didn't turn his back on you willingly.
Wow. I always thought my father didn't want anything to do with me. So that's what I believed.
It's the opposite. It's a very different story. Maureen wants you to know he did think about you, she believes, all his life.
Gee, that changes everything I've ever thought about him.
Maureen has written you a letter.
To our dearest brother, I can't find the words to say how wonderful it is to be able to write this letter to you. Julian, our younger brother, and I have talked about you through the years. Our dad was such a gentleman. He wanted so much to be part of your life. Always your sister and brother, Maureen and Julian. Oh, wow. That is just beautiful. Just changes the world.
Maureen Slews came to us searching for her brother Keith, her dad's oldest son who was adopted as a baby. Maureen's been desperate to find her brother for over 40 years.
She needs to tell him that their father wanted to be part of his life, and so does she. She doesn't need to look anymore, because Keith's been found.
Please come in.
Ah, thank you. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
You found out about your brother quite early on. Did you ever talk to your dad about him?
No.
For your dad must have felt so powerless, like there's nothing he can do, and
Nothing.
Then the baby was adopted.
Yeah.
And suddenly his son's gone.
Yeah.
Terrible.
Yeah. Really, really sad.
So what would you say if you found him?
Your biological dad loved you.
Well, you're going to be able to tell him, because he's been found.
And does he know?
Does he know?
About Julian and me?
He was very surprised that you'd come looking, because he didn't know about his dad, who his dad was, but he knows now you've gone looking for him, and he's really pleased about it. It's been life-changing for him.
Does he want to see us, though?
He wants to see.
God. Oh, good. Oh. Has he got family?
He's got 4 kids.
4?
And 8 grandchildren.
What's his name?
Keith.
He's still Keith?
He had a fantastic adoption.
Oh, good.
He went into a very loving family.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
That's so good. That's so good.
And I've got a photograph, if you'd like to see it. There's your brother.
Oh. Oh. My dad wanted to see him so much. Even a photograph he wanted to see. He looks kind.
He does.
That's like my dad. The jawline.
Aww.
And his eyebrows are like my dad.
Is it? Are they?
Yeah.
He's written you a few words.
Oh, gosh. Hi, Maureen. Wow, what a whirlwind the past few weeks have been. I'm really excited at the prospect of sitting down with you and getting to know you and to sharing stories. To find out you have been searching, that you have been aware of my existence has been very special and very important for me. Thank you so much, Keith. That's so good.
So good, isn't it?
I can't wait to tell Julian.
Hello, Mom.
Hi, Julian. I've got some news to tell you.
What's that then?
They found our brother.
Oh my God. Are you serious?
I'm serious.
Where does he live?
Australia.
You're joking.
No, but he's coming to see us.
I'm just stunned.
I know.
Today, a week after hearing that her brother has been found, Maureen is meeting Keith for the very first time. Julian will also meet Keith, but away from the cameras.
There's such a long time we've been waiting to tell him about his dad. Our dad. It's It's unbelievable, absolutely unbelievable that it's going to happen today.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. How are you doing?
Oh, good.
Nervous?
Yes.
Yeah, let's go.
Thank you. Thank you.
Keith has made the 10,000-mile journey from Australia back to the UK, the country of his birth.
I wake up in the middle of the night and lie there and think about what this all means. Opening up to things that I'd shut down all my life, about being adopted.
Keith.
Nicky, hi.
Come here.
Good to see you again.
Are you excited?
I am very excited, yes. Very excited.
Since we spoke, how's that adjustment been?
It's been quite amazing. It's changed my whole life for all. I've had 60-odd years of believing something, and then all of a sudden, it's the exact opposite.
Meeting Maureen, what's it going to be like, that moment where you see her and she sees you?
It seems a bit surreal that it's actually happening, that I'm about to meet this person who actually we share a part of each other.
So it's been a week since I saw you, and there's been so much to process, hasn't there? How have you been feeling?
It's gone by in a blink of an eye. I've woken in the night and thought about it. I've had his picture by my bed. So excited to see him. All that I thought would never be is actually coming true.
The moment arrives, eh?
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Good luck. Thank you.
Brother and sister are meeting at a pub near to Maureen's house.
And this is where I'm going to say goodbye to your brother. Thank you. Good luck.
Thank you. Thank you.
Good to see you.
This hug is from Dad.
Yeah, you do look like that.
Oh, do I?
You do. Good to see your hands. Similar hands. It's so good to find you.
Gosh. Come and sit down.
So much to talk about.
Sit down.
This is not real, is it?
No, it's not. It's not.
He was a good man.
I know.
Oh, Dad was a good man.
I know.
He was, and he wanted to find you.
My one regret is that he's not here for me to say that it's okay. I've been very lucky. I've had a great life.
I'm so pleased.
It's been fabulous. Thank you. Thank you for looking. I think you're very brave to have searched all those years. I mean, I had not wanted to search before because I didn't know anything about our dad.
Our dad.
Yeah.
Hearing him say, our dad, because it is our dad. He's not just my dad and Julian's dad, he's Keith's dad as well. He's our dad. It's just more than I could ever wish for. Do you want to see a picture of him?
Yes, please. I'd love to. I'd love to.
I've got
I've got quite a few in here.
Oh, wow.
He was about 21. Very handsome.
He was, wasn't he?
Look, can you see? Can you see all this
Yes,
around here is
yes,
you,
yes.
isn't it? Yeah, yeah.
I haven't had the chance to meet him, to be able to shake his hand, give him a hug, tell him that it's all okay. But I can tell Maureen and Julian instead.
He was a wonderful dad. A wonderful dad. He was so gentle.
To be able to now have the chance to get to know more about him has blown me away.
So glad I can tell you these things.
So am I. You do know how important it be for me to hear this, because I thought that he had not wanted anything to do with me. It just changes totally my whole understanding of who he was.
I've got something for you. This is, my dad made this when he was a boy, and Julian and I would like you to have it.
Oh.
Because he's touched it. Everything. We wanted you to have something. Of his.
Thank you, that's really lovely. Really lovely.
Yeah, I'm not going to let him go. I don't care where he is in the world. You know, he's our brother. He's not going away. You can't stop family, and that's that.
Often on Long Lost Family, the reunion isn't the end of the story, it's just the beginning. And for Keith, finding his sister Maureen and learning more about his birth father brought a new desire to understand his past. So he asked us to try and find out a bit more about his birth mother.
I never wanted to search for my birth parents. They were a part of my life that I had denied myself and convinced myself that I didn't want. Meeting Maureen, finding out that there were people from my hidden life who actually didn't want to know about me changed everything. I want to know more about my birth mother to complete the story. That's the bit that's become incredibly important all of a sudden.
68-year-old grandfather of 8, Keith Joseph, went to live in Australia over 40 years ago to escape the stigma of being an adopted child. Having been reunited with his birth father's side of the family, now he's travelling back to Wales, where he grew up, to find out more about his birth mother. Uniquely for Long Lost Family, we're following Keith as he delves into his past for the first time.
Moving to Australia was certainly about wanting to be anonymous. Not be someone who was adopted or someone who had been unwanted, but now I have the opportunity to find my family on my birth mother's side, make peace with my past, make peace with myself.
Keith was adopted as a baby in 1951 by Arthur and Florence Joseph, who he's always known were distant relatives of his birth mother, Betty. He grew up with an adoptive brother and 2 sisters, Nell and Pat.
You were my 7th birthday present.
Yes.
So I was so excited, waiting for you to come. And the day that you arrived, you came, and she had you in Welsh fashion and
Yes.
shawl. We looked at each other and we said, oh my gosh, hasn't he got eyes like saucers?
Oh, God.
And from that day on, you were the love of our life.
Yes.
Yeah, this was the mill.
The mill.
That'd be
That's right, yeah, underneath the beam. So down.
The family lived together on this farm in the Brecon Beacons.
We weren't rich by any means, but
Oh, rich in so many other ways, wasn't it? You know, with all of this.
Yeah.
But although his family life was happy, Keith was treated differently by the wider community. It was at this local village school that he first learned about his adoption.
This is the place where a boy turned around to me and said, "You're a bastard. Your real mother and father didn't want you. They gave you away." It's where that doubt about myself began, the sense of shame about being adopted. Being back here, I think I realise now how much it has played on me throughout my life.
Revisiting places from his childhood has triggered one haunting memory for Keith.
And I remember being on the steps of a church with my mum holding my hand, and this other woman who I didn't know holding my other hand, and being pulled between both. I'm being quite frightened by the whole thing. Talking to my mum about it when I got older, she said, well, yes, that was your mother. She had made numerous attempts to have contact, to see me, but after I was formally adopted, she was no longer allowed to come. She had to stay away. I want to know who she was and what happened to her.
Keith knew that his mother Betty was a distant relative of his adopted mother's, but with the older generation all having passed away, the trail to Betty had gone cold. Through our intermediaries, we accessed Keith's adoption file and found a vital clue: Betty's date of birth. We couldn't find any records for the right Betty in Wales or indeed in England, but we did find one in Scotland. However, this revealed some heartbreaking news. Betty Thomas had passed away in 2005. We told Keith this news away from the cameras.
I am disappointed that I won't have the opportunity to just sit down with her, just talk about our lives. And I would have really loved to have been able to show her my family, my children, my grandchildren. I feel really sad about the fact that I won't be able to do that.
It's always devastating when we find out that the person we've been looking for has passed away. But we can at least give Keith more information about Betty through his adoption file. Today, Keith is seeing his paperwork for the very first time. Legally, a social worker must be present when an adopted person accesses their file, so our specialist intermediary, Charlotte Bruce Lloyd, is with Keith.
I've got with me records that were kept from the time when your birth mother was in the mother and baby home.
Oh.
In Cardiff.
Mm-hmm. Date of entry, 4th of May 1949.
This all relates to Betty.
To Betty?
Yes.
Personal appearance, very small, brown eyes, pale face, nondescript colour hair, pathetic face. Attended school from 5 until 10 years when her mother died. She was placed in an orphanage until she was 15.
Yeah.
Cause of present difficulty, immorality.
Yes. Yes.
Jeez.
At that time, in 1949, when she became pregnant without family support, she would have had no other options but to go to a mother and baby home. Landlords would not rent to women who were not married.
And she would never have got a job.
She would not have got a job.
No, the decisions she made weren't her decisions, they were decisions made for her.
Yeah.
Betty is a poor little forlorn girl. She has had a lot of unhappiness.
You okay?
Yeah. I just feel really sad for her. Even though I don't like some of the stuff that's in it, it's really good to have it. I've got a little bit of her. It's all I've ever seen. Find out that she'd struggled with 5 years in an orphanage and then gone through that dreadful experience of giving birth to a child and having to give it away. She must have gone through incredible pain. I wish I could put my arm around her and say that it's okay, but I won't have that chance, so. But I want to know more about her, not just the bits that were on that piece of paper.
Keith's adoption file paints a picture of a lost young woman. But after she gave Keith up, what happened to Betty? With Betty having passed away 13 years ago, our only hope of finding out more about her for Keith was to find any living relatives. The first place to look for any leads was on Betty's death certificate. Death certificates always include an informant for the death, usually a close relative. Betty's certificate named her daughter, Karen Dolan. Keith had another sister. The death was registered in Scotland, so we scoured Scottish electoral rolls and found an old address for Karen living with her daughter Kathleen in Glasgow. We contacted them, and Karen and her daughter agreed to meet me. Keith has started to paint a picture about his mother Betty's early life, but he still has questions. What happened to her after she gave him up? Now that we've found her daughter Karen and granddaughter Kathleen, will they be able to fill in the blanks? Hello.
Hello,
Hi.
I'm Karen.
Karen, nice to meet you.
Catherine.
Kathleen.
Fine.
I'll follow you. So, was this a huge surprise?
Yes.
What kind of surprise? A good surprise?
A fantastic surprise.
Yeah. When did you first find out about Keith?
I've always known about him. Wanted to meet him a long time ago.
You've always known about him?
Yeah. My mum talked about him all the time. It really hurt her when she gave him up, but she knew he was going somewhere in the family, so she knew he would be safe. She loved him very much. She's never stopped loving him, and she's really proud of him for what he's done in life.
Did she know what he'd done in life?
Well, she knew he was a nurse.
She knew that?
Yeah. And she knew he lived in Australia.
This is because of the family connection?
Mm-hmm.
That's incredible. She knew.
Yeah.
My nana was dead proud of the fact that Keith had a better life than what she could have gave her.
Tell me about your mum.
She was a wonderful person, very kind.
What was she like as a granny?
Lovely. Lovely. She's always happy. Always made me smile.
I've got some photos of her.
Oh, can I see? Fab pile of photos. Oh, look at, she's got a lovely face. Oh, they both look like her. After she gave Keith up for adoption, what happened then?
She had a hard life. There was a lot of heartbreak, but I think she was happy in the end. She had a lot of regrets in her life. Main one was Keith, giving Keith up. That was her biggest regret. And yeah, that was the biggest one. You any photos of him? Wow.
That's your brother.
I know. It's a miracle. Wow. Thank you so much. I'm shaking now. Well, I can't wait to see him now. I'm just sorry my mum's not here to see it. Oh.
This is a first for Long Lost Family, having reunited 68-year-old Keith Joseph with his sister Maureen just 2 weeks ago. I'm on my way to tell him we found more relatives, this time on his birth mother Betty's side.
Sadly, he's never going to get to meet Betty, but I can tell him that he has another sister and a niece, and they want to tell him how much his mother loved him, and that she never forgot him.
Hi, Keith.
Hello, Davina.
How are you?
Good, thank you. Come in.
Thank you. Thanks very much. I'm sorry we couldn't bring you better news about your mum.
I have to admit, I worried that might be the result anyway, just because of her age. I would have loved the opportunity to just give her a hug.
I have got a little bit more information about your birth mother. The fact that you were adopted by distant relatives meant that she could keep tabs on you, and she did throughout your life. Yeah. So she had information about you.
Wow.
She knew you'd gone to Australia.
What?
Yeah. Wow. And she knew that you were a nurse, and she was so proud of that.
She was.
She was very proud.
Ooh. Just goes from one amazing thing to another.
That's your mum.
Gee, just when I thought it couldn't get any bigger. Yeah, it's one hell of a lot to take in.
She went on to have 3 other children after you, and we spoke to Karen, your sister, and she's got a daughter called Kathleen, and Kathleen and Karen have known about you all of their lives. So this is Karen and Kathleen, your niece.
My gosh. Gee whiz.
How are you feeling?
I feel really good, surprisingly. I feel really good. To find out that I was talked about, I was wanted just as much as anybody else, has been really very freeing up for me. A phone call 7 weeks ago, and boy, have my life been turned around.
Within the space of a few weeks, Keith's been on a remarkable journey as his family has tripled in size.
Yeah, you do look like that.
Oh, do I?
You do.
He's met his sister Maureen on his father's side. And today he's finally meeting his sister Karen and niece Kathleen on his mother's side.
Hello. How about that?
Hi.
Hello.
I'm Karen. That's my daughter, Kathleen.
I know. And I'm Keith.
Hi, Keith. I've got to meet my brother. I wish our mum was here right now to see it.
Good to meet you at long last.
It's good to meet you too.
It's been a wait. I've got this huge family, and the fact that they want to be connected is just really special.
Who is it?
This is Maureen, this is Karen.
Hello, Karen.
When my search started, the pieces were all over the place, and they've gradually been brought back together and made whole. Look what we've got.
You're part of the family.
All of the sense of shame and guilt, it's all gone. It feels like I'm at peace with myself. I'm now complete.